Welcome to this week's episode of Waiver Watch. We are on episode 37, and it's not Sunday, so we are releasing on August 4th, 2020. And for this week's agenda, we have three hot, quick topics that we'll cover today. Number one, weekly waiver totals, as always. Number two, a new speed waiver. And number three, the time that 107 waivers attempted to get a speed waiver. All that and more in this week's episode.
Sad trombone.
Welcome to this week's episode 37 of Waiver Watch. This is a speed-themed waiver session, if I may. Session, is that correct?
Video?
Video.
Podcast.
Oh, we're on YouTube. Podcast.
Whatever.
And we'll just jump right into it. No delays. Jakey, hit us with the weekly waiver totals.
All right. We've got a big number this week. I was like, didn't even know how to start this off, but 40 waivers. You heard that
40.
right? That's like the entire last 3 weeks combined.
That's like 4 times as much as, was it 13 again last week?
13. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
4 times.
I don't know what happened all of a sudden.
I don't know.
But anyways, we got 37 daylight operations waivers. I guess that's what happened. A lot of night waivers. Yeah. We had one 107.35 simultaneous operation of multiple small US. 2 107 waivers, I might add.
Ooh.
What are we doing with that?
Yeah. I don't know.
One
Next.
one operation over human beings. 107.39 alpha with pair 0, as always.
Ooh, and given to the...
Oh, yes, Spotlink.
Yes.
Our friends down I-29. So
just about an hour. Depends on how fast you're driving, since this is a speed-themed episode. And what's the main event?
Yeah,
this is our number 2 topic.
This is like the crazy one. It's just 107.29, 31, 33, and 51 alpha. So this is only the second speed waiver ever approved. It's crazy. It's doing high-speed ops at night within like 2 miles. So just getting into what the provisions are a little bit here. It's good for about a month, so pretty short waiver. It's for a specific flight path, it even mentions. So a specific area, specific flight path has to be clear of non-participants. So, clear the area and watch out for this thing blasting through. Right. Has to use a VO and have to be able to see 2 miles around the aircraft, which is becoming a pretty common number, this 2 mile ring around the aircraft. So, so some sort of high speed pass, maybe 2 miles long, something like that at night. Kind of crazy. So what's this guy up to, do you think?
Yeah, so if you do a quick little Google search of Michael's name, you will find that he has been published several times within the IEEE, and it has a lot to do around stealth UAV and counter UAS. So,
well, it's either he's finally created a UAV that is undetectable and maybe speed is part of that, or his other topic was air-to-air counter UAS. So
there you go.
That makes me think that he's like created a UAV that can run into another UAV to take it out. Crazier things have been done, so I don't know. Very interesting. Yeah.
Why did this one hit so close to home for us? Why are speed waivers like just something interesting for us?
Well, yeah, they're kind of cool, but so about 2 years ago, right?
We were
I'm
gonna pull up a video.
Yeah,
video
perfect.
time here.
We were big into like FPV racing, and 6-cell was starting to become the thing. That's battery count, cell count, batteries, so high voltage. Things were getting faster. It's like we saw this video. A guy by the name, I think, like Orion. Yeah.
Let me go back and see. What does it say?
I think it's Ryan, right?
Ryan.
Yeah.
Yep,
So Ryan,
Ryan
down in Arizona, he starts building these like crazy designs to try and basically go as fast as possible. And he kind of goes on this like mission to go just as fast as possible with a quadcopter. So we were like, we can do that. So you're playing the video here, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up here.
They basically have a GPS puck on.
Here's the poll right here.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there you go. That's the one.
It's very brief. Like blink and you miss it, right?
So tilts all the way forward, and he's reading over 300k kilometers an hour on his GPS.
Yep.
Absolutely wild.
Which is just over like 200 mile an hour, right?
Yep. So he has XLR4.
So
6S. So this was like the inspiration. This video was the inspiration. Like, we see this guy and he's getting over 200 miles an hour on this drone. We're like, we can do that. Like, let's find the parts.
Yeah.
So you start talking to him. Yes.
Right. And pretty soon we've got our hands on, I'm showing the camera so you can see one of his frames. So he actually starts selling his frames and kind of he has like a blog on how he's essentially building these things and going as fast through iterations as possible. And yeah, it's like super cool. His website had all his iterations on it, like how he designed it, kept modifying it, and ultimately this thing like ends up basically looking like a missile with 4 little motors on the side. But I mean, that's ultimately we built one. Ours does not go 200 miles an hour, unfortunately. But very sleek. You can see the arms are all skinny.
Right.
It's
right.
kind of hard to see that, but
So we ended up getting buying the frame, buying the parts, everything, right? And then we said, okay, what's next? We want to do it legally, right? So what do we need? We need a waiver. So we're looking around, and back in 2017, there was a waiver that was granted to Lockheed Martin, and it was down in Florida, and it was here are like so many things that we just didn't know what you don't know what you don't know. And back in 2018, we didn't know a whole lot, but we still knew quite a bit, but we just didn't know as much as we know now. Yeah. And anyway, so this waiver that Lockheed Martin gets is restricted access, fenced off, all this extra stuff, and tons of provisions in between, right? And they're Lockheed Martin, so they have a little bit more pull than Jakey and Brent in North Dakota. Like, who the hell are these guys? Maybe now we have a little bit more pull, probably not as much as Lockheed, but we're getting there. But anyways, their waiver was 250 miles an hour. And I'm like, Jakey, we got to beat them. Like, we're going to beat Lockheed Martin. Like, just two dudes in North Dakota, we're going to beat Lockheed
totally
Martin.
Totally not naive or anything.
So we go and we mark 253 miles an hour, 220 knots.
Yep.
And we submit this at Ray Richards Golf Course, which is, at the time, was, what would you call it? It was like part of the University, North Dakota.
It was closed.
It was closed.
Yeah. It's a closed golf course.
Aerospace was flying there.
Yep.
So, perfect place to fly. We had put this golf course in. We're like, okay, no one's coming on here, whatever, right? But pretty much we were probably like whatever in our application because it's absolutely terrible. I don't know if you want to share and reminisce some of this stuff.
Yeah. So I got it up here. So some of the things are just so funny. Yeah. So 220 knots, which is crazy. Like we didn't even have something capable of going that fast, but it's like, we got to beat Lockheed, right?
Yeah, we just wanted it to say on the waiver that we were faster. So Lockheed would be like, what the hell are these guys doing? Maybe they call us,
Yeah. We actually had a name for this aircraft, but this is it. So you're going to love this.
Right?
Tornado Sense.
and why did we come up with Tornado Sense? It's because,
you came up with it, so you...
Yeah, right? If you're going to try to convince the FAA that 2 dudes in North Dakota should get a speed waiver, you got to have some sort of story behind it, right? Well, it's going to be called Tornado Sense, and we're going to do tornado research with it. It's got to go fast to get into a funnel cloud, right? So, turns out one of our coworkers is actually a meteorologist at the time. So he was very intrigued. He's also a principal investigator for several large projects involving unmanned systems. So, but if we would have got approved, we would have no shortage of firepower to actually do something decent with it. If
I mean, could have put a little sensor on this and just like punched it into Tornado. And I mean, it's kind of like,
and then
who cares?
Picked it up later, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
It. So
yeah, it has a gyro. Oh, we don't even have to put sensors on it. It has a gyro on it, like, yeah. So
I don't know.
But yeah,
is that about the only? I thought that was the funniest thing. Tornado sense. So.
But what about like? So it's funny how
What did we do?
We have definitely grown since 2018, and this was even before 107waivers.com even existed, the website URL, all that stuff. This was like the incubation stage. Like we just had these crazy ideas and we wanted to do great things. And what's funny now is we look back at our waiver submission and it is absolutely atrocious. It is by far the worst speed waiver submission that will ever be submitted to the FAA, unless there's a few other people that are like us. But like, it is absolute trash.
Yeah, it is.
And it's just so fun to look back. And that was only 2 years ago. And the formality that we've gone through referencing official FAA resources and documents and we've just basically gone through so many revisions of what a waiver should look like that it just doesn't look like this piece of crap waiver submission. I don't know. Maybe we should put this behind a paywall somewhere and you guys can pay to see this, because it is just gross.
I think we should revive it and actually get it.
I think, knowing what we know now, and
that's what we got to do.
You have to make it easy for the FAA to say yes. And I don't think that we did. Like one key thing, we didn't really make it that easy for them to say yes in this one.
Yeah. Well, and they probably looked at it and they went like, 220 knots, really?
Yeah.
You're
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So, what did, this one probably won't go 200, but you can ask for something a little more reasonable. Increment, step into
150. It. Once you get over a certain mile per hour or knots, right? UAVs handle so much differently. It's like, just talk about like, okay, so when you find FPV normally, like most guys are running like a 35 to like 50 degree camera angle. Like, and 50 degree is you're flying pretty fast. But when you're going 200 miles an hour on a drone and you're flying FPV, what is your camera angle, Jakey?
Yeah, there are some. So this is actually a pretty unique design. So I'm going to take the little canopy out for a second. So if you can see, I don't have to like refocus this, but the battery is the middle part. The camera is basically pointing straight up.
Yeah. So it is like a missile. It's like a rocket. It looks like a rocket.
So when I'm showing the camera like a profile view. When you fly forward, you basically want the camera straight forward. And that's obviously maybe a little bit of tilt to keep yourself.
Yeah, to get a little bit of
in
lift.
Air.
But yeah.
But you also noticed in Ryan's video, he slightly descends because he's just basically pointed forward. So I think, I don't know, I guess we're indicating we know too much. But also one thing that's very interesting is you actually have to somewhat limit the propellers. So brushless motors are capable of hitting Mach speeds on the propeller tips like easy. It's like not even challenging. So it's not actually simply about just putting more power into the motors, because at some point they just stall out and you lose a motor and you just tumble. So it becomes less and less about power and more about surprise aerodynamics, which totally makes sense. But if you think about, all the fastest aircraft out there, the SR-71 and everything, it's not just a big engine. It's very sleek. And
so maybe to kind of like wrap it up, like it's so funny to kind of go back, right? We have our own waiver vault too that is not official. And like I think that this project right here just shows that if we look back 2 years, like where our like motivations were. Like we are like probably like top nerds when it comes to like trying to get a waiver, right? Let's build this thing, let's get a waiver, let's do it legally, right? Because certainly we can build it and just go fly it and we'll be fine. But how can we do it all legally? And that was like the start. That was like kind of like the first like big challenge, and we were met with a big denial, which is common for most people when they try to do advanced things. But yeah, it's just nice to go down memory lane and say, hey, this is where we started, and we still have all these crazy ideas, and we're just kind of better at picking which ones are a little bit more successful. So,
well, and I think there's actually real value to them. I mean, this is totally a silly endeavor, but I think Michael and Lockheed just showed that there probably is actually some research that needs to be done and some real reasons for testing these.
Right.
Whether it's the military looking for stealth UAV technology or civilian assets, critical infrastructure looking to protect themselves from aircraft like this, because most people could probably go build one of these at some point, and you'd have a undefeatable. I guess we're getting way down in the weeds here, but undefeatable UAV that you can't counter, right? So I'm sure that's what Michael's doing. It's awesome.
Yeah,
so a lot of real benefits. Stay tuned.
Anyways, so reminiscing, episode 37, taking a trip down speed memory lane. And stay tuned for next week's episode, and maybe in the future we'll touch on our approved speed waiver.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Very good.
Right. Well, until next time, take care.
Fly safe.